Welcome to my personal finance channel. In today's video, we are going to touch specifically on the young adults, how they can be financially savvy and prepare for the future. So tip number one, you have to be financially literate. So what do I mean by financially literate? You have to have a basic understanding of how the interest rate to impact the interest rate on your debt versus the interest rate on your investment. So if you are paying more interest on your credit, it will eat away the finances which you are supposed to be putting in your investment. So you need to reduce your debt. Rather, I recommend that as a young adult, don't carry consumer debt. Just use credit card as a means of convenient payment. So tip number two, as I've just said, don't pay with a credit card. Use credit card as a means of payment, as a means of building credit, as a convenient means of payment. However, pay it off each and every month. So, in a nutshell, don't use the money which you don't spend money which you don't have. Spend what you have. Use credit card. Of course, we live in a cashless society, and sometimes, of course, you need credit card as a convenient means of payment. But don't rely on credit card. Just pay with it and pay it off. Pay with it and pay it off. So, another tip, start saving and investing early in your lifetime. Here in Canada, we have a registered retirement savings plan, RSP. Start as soon as you graduate from university. Start as soon as possible. Start putting every penny away. Any extra penny which you find yourself with, put it away in your RSP. The earlier you start, the more growth you will have. So as I said in my other video, that on this channel we are not going to dip much into the figures. We are not going to be very mathematical. We'll try and just explain things in simple terms. So tip number four, or another tip, learn how to budget. Learn how to balance the income coming in, how much you spend on rent or mortgage, if you have any, on the rent / mortgage, on food, on car payment, etc., etc., and versus the income which you are bringing in, and how much are you left with to save. Okay. Tip number five, keep track of your spending habits. Keep track of your spending habits. How much are you spending on food, groceries, residence? So, assuming that you're in residence, you are renting, we are going to touch on that issue again. We are going to touch as the video goes on. We'll come to it. So, keep track of your spending habits, and in other ways you can cut some of unnecessary expenditures. So, tip number 6, start an emergency fund. Rule of the thumb, have up to 6 months of living expenses. Stash aside in a savings account. Don't touch that money. Leave it in there right? So that if you follow on hard times, you are able to go for 6 months being able to pay your rent, being able to buy food, being able to put gas in your car or make car payments, make your cable bill, make your internet payment, etc., etc., etc. So keep track of your spending habits and cut some of unnecessary expenses. Okay. Have up to 6 months of living expenses, as I said. That's the rule of the thumb. And tip number 7, protect your wealth. Protect your wealth. Purchase insurance to cover your investments. That's very basic. Protect your wealth. Tip number 8, understand your taxes. Understand your taxes. You need to understand how taxes, that everybody pays taxes. So you need to understand how taxes are calculated, how much tax you pay on your income tax, and how you can legally avoid paying more taxes. I'm not encouraging anybody to evade tax. That's a criminal offense. You can go to prison for that. But you can legally avoid paying more taxes. Like, for example, if you put more, here in Canada, if you put more money in your RRSP at the beginning of the year, you can save on taxes. So that's another tip. So tip number 9, work steadily towards what you want. Say, assuming that you are renting an apartment, first and foremost, I would like to touch that if you are moving into an apartment, avoid moving into an expensive apartment in the first place. Your residence should not be more than 30% of your gross income. So, assuming that your gross income is $1,000, your residence should not be more than $300. Your gross income per month, right? So, if you are moving into an apartment, make sure that it is within your budget. There are a lot of choices out there. I know right now it's like renting has become expensive. So rents have been going up of late since the pandemic here, especially here in Ontario, where I'm resident. However, you can always move into an affordable apartment. There are a lot of choices out there, which will allow you to save a little bit. A good apartment, which is reasonably affordable. So don't move into don't move into a residence that it takes more than, say, 50% of your gross income. Tip number 10, stop eating out excessively. As a young person, you always want to save for the future. So stop eating out excessively. Of course, I'm not saying that you stop eating out completely, but excessively. Stop eating out each and every day. That's expensive. It's expensive. That will take money out of your pocket, out of your investment, out of your bank account. So stop doing that. So that was tip number 10. Tip number 11, do not put up a vacation on a credit card. Do not put your vacation on a credit card. If you are going on a vacation, save for it. Have the money in your bank account before. However, if you are purchasing a ticket online right now, most of the vacations, they are planned online, and you pay with a credit card, but then take the money and pay it off before you take off. So that was tip number 11. Tip number 12, set goals. Set goals for your financial future. Set goals to save for a down payment for a house. Set goals. So goals must be smart. They must be specific, measurable, attainable, timely, and realistic. They must be they must be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So you set goals by saying, I'm going to do this from this time, and they must be realistic. They must set a time limit to it. So you don't just dream and say, oh, I'm going to have a down payment by 2 years from now or 2027, or no. You have to really plan. Say, I'll be saving this amount. Sit down with a piece of paper. Say, I'll be saving this amount every month. So if I'm saving, I need 10,000. Say I need 40,000. So when can I have 40,000? In 2 years from now. So 2 years from now, divide 12 into 40. 24 into 40. And this is how much you are going to be saving per month in order to attain that 40,000. So you have to set a time that by which year, by December of 2027. So this is how you do it. You have to set goals. So other general tips which I would like to touch with. When you go to the bank, bankers, they have a tendency of recommending some of their products. You have to bear in mind that they are not doing that in your best interest. When they recommend savings, they are recommending savings that will meet their sales target. As a young person, you are more vulnerable. They prey on you. So be careful when you're talking to bankers that they don't recommend something which is not in your best interest. So be very, very careful. Your banker is not your friend. He is there to meet his sales target and keep his job or her job. So be very, very careful when you are dealing with a banker, when you are dealing with an insurance company, when you are dealing with a salesperson at an electronics store, when you are dealing with all these people, the salesperson might try and drag you to a product which will give him the highest commission. So is the banker. He wants to drag you to something that will make him meet his sales targets. They have sales targets which they meet every year. So as a young person, you are more vulnerable. So be careful that your bankers, they are not recommending stuff which you don't need. Another advice which I would also want to give you is when you're talking to these people, when you're talking to a bank, when you're talking to an insurance advisor, when you're talking to any of people whom you deal with on a day-to-day basis in different businesses, demand what you deserve. Do not let them lead you to something which you don't need. So demand what you deserve. And also another issue on the banking, certain banks, they charge a lot of money as a service charge. So you can talk to them, you can talk to the banks to reduce that, or you can take your business somewhere else. We have a lot of banks everywhere. You can always close one account here and open it on the other. So as I said before, you need also, as a young person, an emergency fund. It is indispensable. It helps you deal with the ups and downs of life. You need up to 6 months of essential expenses. So you need an emergency fund. Have enough money in your emergency fund to cover mortgage or rent, food, bills, car payment, gas for your car. So this is the money you need in an emergency fund. So, and you need to invest in financial education. You need to have a very good understanding of personal finance. You need to be financially literate. You need to know how much you bring in and how much you spend. So in your financial literacy, as I just said, you need to understand the emergency fund, cash management, rent versus owning, your credit score. Your credit score. You need to understand that right now there are a lot of websites where you can sign and get a free credit score. Or if you are not comfortable doing that, you can always write direct to them. They can always, from 3 major credit unions, they can always send you back your credit score. There is no charge for that. You need to learn early how to invest. Apart from investing for your future, for your retirement, which you have to start, which I recommend strongly that you start as early as possible, like registered retirement savings plan. But you also need to learn how to invest on the stock market, in the bonds, etc., etc. You need to understand these things. You also need to understand various insurances. You need to understand life insurance. We have on life insurance, we have term versus permanent life. You need to understand which of the two do you need and how much of insurance you need. And if you go for the term, it's always for a limited time, or you can take it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, depending with your needs. You also need to understand that. Also need to understand taxes. Taxes, they impact your financial well-being. The more you are taxed, the less money you have in your pocket. So you need to understand that and how you can legally pay less taxes. Not illegally. No, we don't encourage crime here. We encourage people to play within the rules and the laws of the country, to respect the rule of the law. That's the objective of my channel. You also need to understand estate planning. So this is my advice to you, and as a young person, This information is very crucial, and subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to this channel. We have good tips every now and then.